In his most recent video, Gary has announced that he will no longer be making videos for Gary's Economics, or if he does, it's just going to be as a one-off, not like he is currently, not doing these weekly videos. So essentially, this is the end of his channel. First and foremost, I want to start by just saying to Gary, thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your channel. Thank you for helping to bring awareness of the great inequality that we see in society. Thank you for getting wealth tax into the conversation. I think it's really obvious that living standards have collapsed over the last 25 or 30 years, and it's not mainstream. There aren't enough people talking about it, and it's madness. We need to talk about this. I'm shocked by how far living standards have fallen in the UK, particularly since 2006. That was the year that I graduated from university. After graduating, I returned home. I spent a year in quite insecure work, saving as much money as I could, and then I pursued an opportunity abroad. So I left the country in 2007, and kind of every year I came back to see friends and family, just for a couple of weeks. But I didn't really appreciate just how bad things were getting in the UK. It was only when I moved back for good in 2019 that I really realized that things are just, compared to how things were, it's a different country almost. I think I'm very fortunate that while I was away, I was able to save some money. I was able to get together money for a house deposit, but I come back and many of my peers still haven't been able to do that. I see that there are loads of millennials that they want to get a place of their own, but just financially, it's not going to happen. There's this really horrible analogy that I hear time and time again, and I hate it, but I think it's so appropriate for how things are at the moment. So the analogy is there's a frog that you're trying to cook for whatever reason. Anyway, if you put him into a pot on a stove that's already boiling, then he'll just jump out of the water. But if you put him in water that's at room temperature and you slowly turn up the heat, he won't notice and eventually he will cook. I hate this analogy. I mean, is it even true? Anyway, that's what I can see from most people here. They've been in the UK this whole time when I was abroad, and they haven't noticed that things have just gradually got worse year after year. People don't appreciate that their living standards have collapsed and that their children are going to live worse lives than the ones that they have. I mean, any kind of social mobility now is basically dead. I feel like I'm the frog, just thrown back into British society, and I feel like, what is happening here? How are people walking around like this? People are just so complacent. Like they haven't noticed how bad things have become. Like it's normal to have to call the GP at exactly 8 AM to make sure that you get an appointment on that day. Because God forbid you call at 5 minutes past 8 and then you wait in a queue for a couple of hours to not get an appointment. And then probably you're going to talk to a receptionist that's really unpleasant to you as well. Why do we have to do this to get a GP appointment? I mean, isn't the right to healthcare a basic human right? Then for many, you won't be able to register with a dentist, or there are potholes everywhere, or finding a job is so much harder than it used to be before, or that wages have just not kept up with the rising costs of living. And it's so hard now to get your housing situation sorted, whether you're trying to buy your first property, whether you're just trying to rent. There's just so much competition. Landlords are so greedy and so horrible, and estate agents will just lie to you. I lived in 3 different countries. I rented places in 3 different countries and had no problems whatsoever finding somewhere to live. But I come back to the UK and it's just mental. I mean, the behaviour of some of the estate agents is just, what are they playing at? It feels like collectively the whole of the UK have just decided, well, that's just how things are. What can we do? Maybe we'll have a moan on Facebook or on Reddit, but that's as far as we're going to go. We won't really speak up. We won't start a movement. We won't try and change anything. We'll just be happy with what we've got. And we allow ourselves to get distracted by nonsense. Things like, stop the boats! Oh no, people are coming here illegally. I mean, this is a tale as old as time. I remember in 2003 sitting one of my A-level exams and having to write an essay about illegal migration to the UK. How long are we going to continue to blame our problems on migrants? But somehow we let people convince us, this is the biggest problem in society. Not the huge collapse in living standards. No, it's illegal migration. It makes me just want to throw my hands up in the air and say something like, wake up, but that's going to make me sound like I'm a conspiracy nut or something. So Gary's channel's been a breath of fresh air. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about inequality. We need to talk about how our lives are getting worse. And we actually need to do something about it. You know, having a moan in the pub, putting a few snarky comments online, that's not really going to help, is it? I wonder what's next for Gary, and I hope he'll be kind to himself. In his book, The Trading Game, yeah, got my copy, he talks about his time in Japan when he's working for Citibank, and he's very open about how bad his mental health is. In his farewell video, he talks about having burnout, feeling completely knackered, just needing to take a break. I hope he can take a break. I hope he can properly recharge his batteries. I'm sure that he will have loads of opportunities open to him when he returns, and that we haven't seen the last of him. I think what he really needs to do is to hire a PA or to hire a manager, just somebody that can just take care of his schedule and protect time that's his own. He talks a couple of times in his videos about having holidays and how they were cancelled for him and he had to come back and work on his documentary or other bits and pieces. I think he just needs someone that can be a buffer, that can just say, no, look, he's a workaholic, give the guy a break. It's not super important. He'll be back when he's back. Hopefully that will help him protect his mental health a little bit. I get the sense he is a workaholic. As you can guess from the name of my channel, Andrew's Economics, this was inspired by Gary's channel, Gary's Economics. I remember a video he put out last year where he basically encouraged everyone, you know, I can't do this alone, start a YouTube channel, you can be the change you want to see in the world. I remember watching it and thinking, yeah, he's right, people should, but not me, you know, I don't have the skills, I don't know how to make a video, and I'm not an economist, I'm a psychologist. And then I saw Barry's channel, Barry's Economics, and I thought, wow, look at this guy. He's going really deep into some really interesting stuff in psychology. Oh man, I could have done that. That was my niche, psychology. I'm a psychologist. I have 2 degrees in psychology. I've been beaten to it. And then, oh wait, this guy, he's a professional comedian. He's actually hilarious. He's got loads more charisma than me. And then something really dramatic happened to me. It was a day like any other. I was on my way to work. I was riding my electric bike. I was going down a hill. I was going really fast. I went through this busy junction. I hit a pothole and I came off. I broke my nose, I broke 2 teeth, I suffered a concussion. It took me weeks to recover from the head injury. I don't remember the accident at all. I remember going so quickly towards that junction, and then I was lying in the middle of the road. There was no me coming off my bike. It happened too quickly. I was on and then I was off, and then blood was gushing from my nose and my mouth. I always thought, riding my bike, yeah, it's a little bit dangerous, you know, but if I have an accident, I'll jump off, or if I fall off, I'll be able to crawl and get myself out of danger. Actually, when it happened, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do anything. I was just lying in the middle of the road, just very focused on my face, just trying to hold everything together. I didn't really care about anything else that was happening in the world. I could so easily have been killed. What actually happened was that 4 people just immediately came to help me. They dashed over, picked me up, got me out of the road, sat me down on the pavement, wrapped me up in this big coat. It was cold and I was shivering, but I think more from the shock than the temperature. They called an ambulance for me, but it turned out the wait for the ambulance would have been so long. One of the women, she was a teacher at a nearby school. She thought, nah, we're not doing this. Get in my car. She went out of her way to drive me to the hospital and to drop me off at A&E. Another lady, she was on the phone to police and she was explaining, he's been hit by a car, he's been hit by a car. I was trying to reply but, you know, I couldn't really talk. So one of the guys, he took my bike, he took it to his shop and he kept it safe. And I picked it up in the afternoon when I was done with the hospital. Luckily, I could just walk it home. And for weeks and weeks after my accident, I thought about this. You know, I don't live in one of the nicest areas of my city. And I had this accident. People saw and just immediately they came to help. They didn't know me, I was a stranger, but they didn't care. They just saw me and they knew the right thing to do was to help. And that really made me think, what kind of a society do I want to live in? Do I want to live in a society where people help each other? And then what can I do on a personal level to make society better for everyone? So here I am, here's the channel. Thank you, Gary, thank you for the inspiration. It just took me a bit longer than it should have done. Even though Gary's ending his channel, he leaves a really strong legacy. You know, his book, Trading Game, is a bestseller, well worth a read. He's also got a documentary out by Channel 4. It's well worth a watch. If you're not in the UK and you want to watch it, maybe there's something you can do to temporarily make it look like you're in the UK. His YouTube channel has 1.6 million subscribers. He has over 200 million views, but honestly, who can tell when numbers get that big? I think YouTube, ultimately, is a poorer place without Gary and Gary's economics. But there is still Barry, Sally, Andrew, and maybe your economics. So thank you, Gary. I better leave it there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.